I checked the Raytheon part numbers on them, and then those are the transmitter, radar purpose transmitter tubes from the 1940s. This is called an IBM 3270 personal computer. Okay. And the 3270 was an IBM mainframe terminal that plugged into some sort of mainframe or AS400 mini computer system. And the idea behind this was you could have a PC and you could have mainframe terminal emulation. And CPU horsepower, computing power, was so much less than it is today that it was easier and cheaper for IBM to make hardware emulation cards and put them in a PC to handle all the terminal emulation, keyboard emulation, screen emulation than it was to write a piece of software.
Wow.
You still had a piece of software that was your terminal program. However, you needed this hardware to perform all the tasks. So you had a special video card with a special monitor. I have the monitor here. You had your network terminal cable. Mm-hmm. That was your network adapter that would go to what's called a MAU, a media access unit, which would then go to your mainframe or mini computer. And this was a special keyboard connector emulation doohickey of some sort. You got a couple of special connectors for it, and these guys are internally bridged together. They've got little jumper cable, ribbon cables going between them. So 5162 XT model 286, and the way that you tell it from all the others is that your battery pack for the real-time clock, we were talking about the real-time clocks earlier, the battery pack was easily accessible. Where with the ATs, you got to take the case off, and in fact, here's an AT case. The battery, you can see one right there, is on Velcro right on the side. So if you ever have to change the battery, you got to take the damn thing apart. You don't have to take a lot apart, but you have to take the case top off, and if you got a monitor sitting on top of that, that's a pain in the ass. So with this, you just pop the screw, spring-loaded, pops the battery out, put the new battery in, screw it back in, you're done. Awesome. And you can still get that battery brand new to this day, as well as that battery brand new to this day, because that particular battery is still in use commonly in a lot of older cameras that they made millions of, so the battery stock is still out there, the demand for it. Very easy to find.
Because we had a big problem with the Varta batteries, which would basically leak acid after a long time.
We had that same problem with the 386s and the 286s, all those that they had the batteries that were just soldered to the board.
So you had to cut them all out to save your board, basically.
Yes. Yes, you want to cut them out anyway and replace them with something that's got removable pins.
CR battery.
Anything. So that's the XT model 286, which was the end of the line. They had AT power in an XT case, and then the PS2 came out a year later. Mm-hmm. They allegedly say that the XT 286s were made just to use up old stock and use up all the old part stock, throw out another computer before they unveil the newest and bestest, latest and greatest. So you've got this big, huge here, this card that sits there, and that basically gave you 7 more slots. So if you had 5 minus 2 is 3, you take 13 minus 2 gets you down to 11, 1 video card gets you down to 10. So it was a hell of a lot of money, and it didn't give you a lot of expansion. The 8 slot, 5160 XTs that came after had a lot more expansion in them for a hell of a lot less money. But these were done, they estimate that only 2,000 of them were made. Nobody knows because the production numbers do not exist. The production numbers were lost, thrown away, what have you. This is an A-open for retro PC gamers.
Okay. It's like a recreation, huh?
No. This is an original Pentium 4 533 megahertz front side bus with a tube preamp for the sound card.
Oh, wow.
Called the A-Open Tube Sound.
That's mad. I've never seen
This was like a total flop. This was a $250 gamer motherboard. This does like a horseshoe all the way around.
Wow.
But that's all tubes up there. This is all test equipment in here. Some of it is old telecom test equipment, some of it is electronics test equipment. Stuff from the 30s up through the, 80s.
Yeah, General Electric and...
Old military radios, like that lead radio there. There's 1, 2, 3 of them.
Yeah, because Oh, that's nice. Yeah.
HP distortion analyzer.
Oh, nice.
Rack mount. For audio engineers.
That's nice.
Or radio engineers too, RF engineers.
Okay.
I checked the Raytheon part numbers on them. And then those are the transmitter, radar purpose transmitter tubes from the 1940s.
Wow.
Yeah. But this one was all custom built for mapping the jet streams. They would shoot radar at meteors as they were burning up in the atmosphere and watching the dust trail disperse, and they were measuring and mapping how it was dispersing and the speed, and they mapped the jet streams that way.
That's awesome.
Yep. Interesting piece of history there. That's your power supply. It has plate and screen voltage, separate rectifiers, a shelf of filter reactors, which are just big inductors. And then that's another power supply for the driver circuits. But that's all plate and screen for the actual radar amplifier tubes. This is to run the pulse tubes. Those are still new in box Oki Data dot matrix printers.
Oh, beautiful. I love the noise.
Yep. And there's a bunch of old vintage 286, 386 boards, ISA stuff up in there. And then that's all vacuum tubes on that shelf. That's all vacuum tube boxes and vacuum tubes on that shelf. That's miscellaneous shit there.
Yeah.
A couple of microfiche readers. There's some bunch of vacuum tubes up there, a bunch of boxes, and then over there, that's all tubes. And then the fun stuff is up there.
Oh.
That right there, that's the professional graphics monitor in pieces. I'll bring that down because... And there's an NEC3FG underneath it, a multi-sync 3.
A lot of scopes as well.
Yeah, a lot of scopes. There's a whole shelf of scopes behind that shelf.
Oh, nice.
The big boat anchors. You can see the cracks in it.
Yeah.
And the cracks on top.
Yeah.
All the weight is in the CRT. So if you ship it right side up, and you've got 40-year-old plastic, it gets very, very brittle, and it cracks.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what happened to this guy.
Yeah.
So, yeah. The most valuable thing on this thing, I kid you not. Where is it? There it is.
Oh, that's a hard crack, that is. That's not
Mm-hmm. It gets worse, though.
horrible to see.
Gets worse. IBM Professional Graphics Display.
Oh, nice.
That goes right there. I've been trying to buy one of these, and all the people that I've reached out to have been trying to buy this off of me. They're like, no, I'm not going to sell my monitor. Would you sell me that tag? But anyway, the tragedy of this guy is that, well, he never had that on back. University of California, but the CRT is broken inside, if memory serves. But what's interesting about this, I showed you those two EGA monitors.
Yeah.
The two EGA monitors are actually, let's see, we're going to take those out. that shows up wrecked, and the guy was going through some family troubles and just wouldn't respond to my calls. He sold this to me for a steal, quite frankly. The price I paid for it was way less than I paid for that last monitor, and the price I paid for that last PGA monitor that's still floating around Georgia was, I think, a lot less than I was willing to pay.
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't mean it's worth more, but it went for a whole lot less than I bid a very high number. I've never actually taken this thing apart myself, but the plan... Yeah, the CRT is cracked in the back. You see right there, CRT neck's broken.
Oh no, yeah, I can
Yeah.
see that there's a broken glass. Yeah.
Yep. But there's something about the board where there was too much salt damage for the board to be fixable.
Okay.
But you can see that there was water leaks in there.
Oh god, yeah.
You know, you can see all the dust and dirt. The thing was kept in a garage near the coast. So this is the condition it was in. However, my thought was the IBM EGA monitors are apparently nearly identical.
Ah.
So the thought was get a second EGA monitor, which is why I had two there, one recapped and one not recapped, and professional graphics board off of this and put it on that, and then have a working professional graphics monitor.